example, we went out with a machete and cut a trail northward until we picked up the signal again from within the forest. Then we hacked away through the branches and vines, following the signal as it got stronger until we could finally see our bat roosting on a branch, or at least figure out which tree hole our bat was hiding in. It was tricky because we needed to cut a path in front of ourselves with machetes, but we also had to be quiet so as not to scare the bats off as we approached. It was also tricky because most of the vegetation we were hacking through was full of nasty things like scorpions, thorny acacia plants covered in ants, and venomous snakes. But man, I have never had so much fun in my life. By the end of the trip, I was feeling pure bliss. I was sunburnt and covered in bug bites, but I'd found a career path that excited me. And I was starting to imagine filling the rest of my life with adventures just like this one. Unfortunately, in all that excitement, I just failed to notice that one of my insect bites had a maggot in it. The human botfly looks like a normal housefly, but it is far more stomach-churning than the thing that keeps landing on your salad. An adult female botfly zips around the rainforest, then catches a mosquito in mid-air, lays an egg on her abdomen, and lets her go. Later, the mosquito bites a mammal, a monkey, a jaguar, or a bat biologist, for example, and while that mosquito feeds, the botfly's egg falls off the mosquito and onto the mammal. The egg hatches into a maggot, which makes its way into the hole created by the mosquito and then settles in to feed and grow. The maggot starts out just a few millimeters long, but grows steadily until, after a month and a half or so, when the maggot, now about an inch long, eats its way back out of the skin, falls to the ground, molts into an adult fly, and then flies away. It's actually a pretty smart strategy by the botfly. The adult is big enough that if I'd seen one land on me, I'd have slapped it silly, but the adult never came anywhere near me. It used a mosquito as its courier service, so I didn't even notice. In fact, I didn't realize anything was wrong until I was home a few weeks later. The maggot was firmly lodged at the top of the back of my head, just on the right side. At first, it was like any mosquito bite. But a bump started forming around the bite, and that bump was steadily growing. Now that spot's a very hard place to look at closely on your own head. I tried with 2 mirrors and a flashlight, but I just couldn't get a good look. It was too hard to part my hair and squeeze with all that stuff in my hands. All I could see was a swollen red area about the size of a dime. In the center of that red zone was a tiny hole, and sometimes other people would tell me they could see a little white snorkel come poking out of that hole. That was how I knew for sure what I had, because that snorkel is how botfly maggots get their oxygen. I'd never had a botfly before, and I didn't really know how to remove one properly, so I just kept trying to squeeze it like a zit. This did not impress my friends in the slightest. They made me wear a hat, and if I so much as scratched my face, they'd immediately make me go wash my hands. I tried to explain to them that they couldn't catch a botfly from me, but that didn't seem to matter. As far as they were concerned, I had cooties. After a couple of days, they felt comfortable enough to start making fun of me, but they still wouldn't come very close. Their jokes were marvelous. They told me the whole botfly thing was just in my head. They told me they knew it was tough, but that I shouldn't let the botfly get under my skin. And they wanted to know if I could claim my botfly as a dependent on my taxes. They even gave her a name: Georgia. So it went for about a week. I went about my business with Georgia on my mind, squeezing to try to get her out now and then, but mostly just hoping she'd somehow go away. Botflies are hard to squeeze out because they have these sharp backward-pointing bristles around their bodies that brace them firmly in the flesh. If they're lodged somewhere like your arm or chest, you can squeeze enough skin to get behind them and pop them out of that breathing hole, but other parts of the body just don't let you get underneath it. On my head, I just couldn't get the leverage I needed. So I'd end up squeezing Georgia on the sides, and then she would just hurt more. I hoped that once she got bigger, I'd be able to get my fingers underneath her to squeeze her out, but that strategy just never seemed to work. Maybe if I'd waited longer, I would have been able to dislodge her with my fingers, but I reached my emotional breaking point long before that. About 2 weeks after coming home from Belize, I snapped. I was in my car driving to the grocery store when that spoon edge into my head pain suddenly started up again. It was in that moment that I immediately decided that Georgia was coming out.